Okay, quick question. Has your body ever just changed on a birthday? Not gradually. Like, you woke up different. Your joints feel off. A couple drinks used to be nothing. Now you're wrecked the next day. You catch yourself in the mirror, and your skin looks like it belongs to someone a few years older. If that's happened to you, you're not making it up. And it's not just you getting older in general. And this isn't just a scary claim with nothing behind it. Stanford actually tracked this with real biological data, not surveys, and found two exact ages where it happens. Even the researchers who ran it don't fully know why it lands at exactly these two ages. But there is a real published theory for why, not just a shrug. And I'm going to walk you through it directly later in this video, not tease it and drop it. I'm Mike Anderson, and this is Inside Health. If you're tired of health advice that sounds smart but changes nothing, you're in the right place. No fluff, no fear-mongering, just actual research, explained in plain English, with the study right there to back it up. And today's research is a big one. There are two specific ages where this hits almost everyone. Stanford actually tracked it, with real data, not guesswork. And I mean specific. Not sometime in your 40s. Two exact ages. I'll get to them in a second. Here's how the study worked. Over 100 people, ages 25 to 75, followed for close to 2 years on average. Some tracked even longer. Researchers took actual biological samples, blood, microbiome, the works, every few months, tracking the same people over time, instead of just asking how they felt. Here's the number that stopped me when I read this. They didn't just track a few things. Between all the molecules, microbes, and time points, this study produced close to 250 billion individual data points. From 108 people. That's not a typo. That's the actual scale of what they were tracking, just to find these two ages. Out of those samples, they tracked well over 100,000 different molecules and microbes, and watched how they moved over time, person by person. What they found basically wrecked the old assumption that aging is this smooth, gradual slide, because 81% of everything they measured didn't drift slowly at all. It sat flat for years, then spiked, hard, at two exact ages. 44 and 60. If either of those is close to you right now, say your age in the comments. I'll circle back to why I'm asking a bit later. Here's the part that actually surprised the researchers themselves. They figured the 44 spike was probably tied to menopause, since that's roughly when it happens for a lot of women. Except men showed the exact same spike. Same age. So whatever's causing this, it's not hormonal. The genetics professor who led this, Michael Snyder at Stanford, put it this way. We're not just changing gradually over time. There are some really dramatic changes. Which, yeah, tracks with what a lot of people already feel, and just chalk up to getting older. So what actually happens at 44 versus 60? Because they're not the same event wearing a different number. They're genuinely different. At 44, the shift clusters around alcohol, caffeine, and lipid metabolism, plus cardiovascular disease markers, and skin and muscle changes, which lines up with basically every complaint people have about turning 44. Tolerance dropping. Things feeling different in the mirror. Turns out that's not just getting older is weird. It's a real, measurable biological shift happening in this specific window. 60 is a wider story. The shift moves into carbohydrate and caffeine metabolism, immune regulation, kidney function, cardiovascular disease, and skin and muscle again. Notice something both windows have in common? Caffeine metabolism shows up at 44 and at 60, which means the same cup of coffee you've been drinking your whole adult life is being processed by a meaningfully different body twice, once in your mid-40s and again in your 60s. Nobody tells you that. You just start feeling more jittery, or sleeping worse after your afternoon coffee, and assume it's random. That matches something doctors have noticed for a long time. Recovery just gets slower around this age. Here's something else worth knowing. From earlier work by this exact same research team, using this exact same group of 108 people. Before this study, they'd already found that people don't age the same way as each other. Some people are what the researchers call kidney agers. Their kidney function declines faster than everything else. Others are liver agers, or metabolic agers, or immune agers. Same four systems, just a different one leads the decline, depending on the person. So the two windows we're talking about today, 44 and 60, hit almost everyone. But which part of you takes the hardest hit inside that window might already be somewhat written into which type of ager you are. Honestly, this window is coming whether you save this video or not. The only question is whether you remember what to actually do when it hits. That's really the only reason to bookmark this one. Not because it's good content, but because the useful part of this video is worthless to you today, and genuinely useful the exact week you turn 44 or 60. Nobody on the research team can tell you why these two ages specifically happen. Out of an entire lifespan, why 44 and 60? That's still unanswered. Remember what I told you at the start, that there's a real theory here, not just a shrug? Here it is. There is a theory, though, straight from Snyder himself. He suggested that for the 60s window, declining immune function might be the trigger that sets off broader organ decline. For the 40s window, his leading guess is tied to lifestyle shifts that tend to cluster around midlife. Activity dropping off as work and family life get busier. Neither is confirmed. That's the researcher's own best guess right now. But it's a real named published theory, exactly as promised. But here's the reassuring part, if you needed it. This showed up across almost everyone in the study, regardless of lifestyle or background. It seems to just be how human bodies are built to age. And going back to those comments, I want to see if the people closest to 44 or 60 right now describe it differently than people who've already been through it. If enough of you answer, I might pin the most interesting ones. Now, if you've made it this far, this is the part most people watch this kind of video for and then never get, because most videos stop at, here's what's wrong. We're not stopping there. Okay, so, what do you actually do with this? I want to be upfront. The study itself didn't hand out a treatment plan. It identified what's shifting, not a verified fix. But general medical guidance for those exact systems gives you something concrete to work with. For the 44 window Y, where the shift clusters around cardiovascular and lipid metabolism, the American Heart Association's standing guidance is to get at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity a week or 75 minutes of vigorous activity, plus muscle strengthening activity at least twice a week. That's not new advice invented for this study. It's the general cardiovascular baseline doctors already recommend, and it happens to target the exact systems this window affects. On alcohol, this is the window where your body's alcohol and lipid processing is shifting the most. The National Dietary Guidelines standing recommendation, regardless of this study, caps it at 2 drinks a day or less for men, and 1 or less for women. And that threshold gets even lower as you move into your 60s, since older adults process alcohol more slowly and reach a higher blood alcohol level from the same amount. For the 60 window PSI, where the shift moves into immune regulation and kidney function, the CDC's adult immunization schedule includes several vaccines specifically recommended starting at 50 or 60, including RSV vaccination for adults 50 to 59 who are at increased risk, and additional hepatitis B guidance for adults 60 and older. Staying current on that schedule is a concrete, checkable action tied directly to the system this study flagged as shifting. Neither of these is a guaranteed fix, and none of it is medical advice tailored to you specifically. Talk to your own doctor about what applies to your situation. But all 3 of these are real, standing recommendations from the CDC, AHA, and National Dietary Guidelines, not something invented for this video. Now, the thread I keep circling back to. This is honestly the part that got me when I read the study. Some of the molecules spiking during these 2 windows are also linked to diseases like cardiovascular disease and neurodegenerative conditions, according to the study itself. Which raises a pretty big question. Do these 2 age windows help explain why certain age-related diseases tend to show up when they do? That part's still being researched. Genuinely might be its own video, and I'm not going to pretend I have the answer to tease it right now, because honestly, neither does anyone else yet. But if that question bothers you the way it bothers me, subscribing is the only way you'll see it the moment there's an actual answer, instead of stumbling onto it later. One more thing before we close, because I'd rather say it plainly than leave it implied. Everything in this video is general research, not a diagnosis, and not personalized medical advice. If you're noticing something that feels like more than an ordinary shift, chest pain, sudden weakness, unexplained weight loss, or symptoms getting worse instead of settling, don't wait for a birthday. Call your doctor this week. This applies regardless of your age or where you fall relative to either window. We've basically been told our whole lives that aging is a slope. Slow, steady, gradual. It's not. It's two doors. You don't get to choose when you walk through them. You just get to choose what kind of shape you're in when you do. And if you dropped your age up top, did this hit you early or is it still coming? Either way, that's exactly why this one's worth a like. So it reaches someone before their birthday does, not after.